Hello and welcome back. Today's question is, what is included in a natural childbirth class?
This is Kaely Daily, the bi-weekly podcast about all things doula tips and tits, where we answer one question about pregnancy, labor, postpartum, or lactation in order to have your journey in this parenting world be just a little bit more informed.
Hello and welcome back to Kaely Daily. I'm Harrod, your host, doula, educator, etc. here at the Kaely Daily podcast. Oh my word, I shouldn't be starting my intro this way. Welcome back. It is early September and we're continuing on in the series of childbirth education. So today's question is, what is included in a natural childbirth class? Now, the last episode was diving into Childbirth Express. We're going to have one more episode talking all about hybrid, virtual, and in-person kind of, or like live and self-paced, like different kinds of hybrid classes. And then I have interviewed already a few different kinds of instructors who teach classes that I do not teach, methods that I'm not trained in, because I want you to have a sense of what they cover as well, in case those are classes that you're looking at. So that's kind of what to look for in the next handful of episodes. So today we're talking about natural childbirth class. Now, oftentimes people ask me what the difference is, right, between like a Childbirth Express and a natural childbirth class. Primarily the difference in my mind is that in a natural childbirth class, there should be a lot of emphasis on non-medication comfort measures. So things that are not pharmaceutical drugs, right? Like things that are not an epidural, things that are not IV opioids, etc. And really exploring less used, less conventional, every possible kind of coping technique and pain management method so that you have a lot of tools in your toolbox. The intention of a natural childbirth class is really for people who are planning an unmedicated labor. Now, I think it's important to have loads of tools, even if you're planning an epidural, because you don't just get an epidural with your first contraction, right? So you have to go through some part of labor before you have an epidural if you're going to go through a vaginal delivery. However, I do think it's really helpful to have a class that's more centered on other options, if that is your plan. If your plan is to avoid an epidural, then you don't want to take a class with an instructor who thinks nobody can do that, right? For instance, or you don't want to take a class like a natural childbirth class if you really love epidurals and you want an epidural, you're so excited for an epidural, and you have a teacher who tells you epidurals are terrible, right? So the idea behind having a difference in like Childbirth Express or weekend childbirth classes, childbirth basics, things like that, right? Those kind of names, Childbirth 101, and like a natural childbirth class, is that you're getting information that's more geared towards what your goal is, what your game plan is. And hopefully that information is still as unbiased as possible. So still not saying like, only unmedicated births are good, right? Which is just not true and also isn't helpful. And so my hope is that folks who teach natural childbirth classes are also including a non-judgmental lens so that you don't feel like you have this pressure to like be good enough at birth, right? Now I teach a natural childbirth class and I want to just kind of break down what that looks like for me, so that you have an idea of what it could look like. I obviously can't speak to anyone else's natural childbirth class because I really just teach my own, right? I teach it at the Breastfeeding Center. So last episode, I talked about how amazing the Breastfeeding Center is in DC. I'm going to link to their website in the show notes, and I'll put that link in the other episode as well. I'll also link to the last episode. So you have the previous episode to look at, like Childbirth Express and weekend class, and kind of compare them. So in the natural childbirth class that I teach, it's a 3-week series. The first week talks all about the logistics of labor. We go through like, what is your uterus doing? What are the different stages? What does it mean? When will your water break? What does it mean when someone talks about how effaced you are at the station of the baby and all that kind of stuff? The second week is primarily comfort measures. We talk a ton about positioning, comfort measures that are not as conventional, like using a comb or using a TENS unit or using the shower, using the tub, talking about other options that you can employ. We also spend time practicing those things. Now, the natural childbirth class that I teach is a virtual class, but taught live, meaning that we all get together at the same time, but we're on a video call, right? And that means I'm helping them find the right spots when they're doing massage and pressure and things like that. We're practicing some breathing together. Usually we're talking about like baby's positioning and where what the position is right now for you. How can you kind of feel on your own abdomen where your baby might be and things like that. Okay. Then that third class is going into more like intervention sort of stuff that's important to know, along with induction information, cesarean information, postpartum information, and breastfeeding. So if you go back and listen to the Childbirth Express episode, or if you've already listened to that, then that list of stuff is really similar, right? The difference is the amount of time we spend on coping measures. So really that like coping comfort measures class that whole class is centered on that subject. And you get a lot more tools than you get in like a weekend class or a Childbirth Express class, okay? I just want to add in here that one option that many doulas have, many childbirth educators have, is the option of doing a private comfort measures session. Now, the reason I want to throw this in here is, let's say you're wanting an unmedicated labor, but you're like, well, I already took a weekend childbirth class, right? Or I already took a like basic class. So I want those comfort measures, but I don't want to take a whole class again. Well, then you're a good candidate for getting a private session with someone where you're like practicing some comfort measures, either over a video call or in person at your house if it's someone that's local to you. I've done that with a few folks who are either like not on baby number one, right? So they're giving birth again and just want kind of a refresher of comfort measures and positioning and things like that. I've done that for someone who's just really nervous about it. I've done it for folks who are dealing with like a breech baby or something like that, and they're worried about some positional things in terms of baby's position. And so that's something that many doulas like myself offer. And also it's possible to look up folks in your area who do that kind of thing. I do them both virtual and in person. So if you're interested in that, I'd be happy to chat with you about what that looks like and what to like look for and ask around about if you're looking to find that where you are. But that can also be a great addition if you've already had a class, but you feel like you didn't come away with a bunch of comfort measure tools. Is it just specifically learning those on top of the logistical stuff that you already learned about labor? Okay. So that's all for today. We're going to dive into the hybrid models next. And then the next couple episodes after that will be like specific class types. And you'll be seeing me with other folks that I get to interview, some of my dear friends and colleagues. So until then, I wish you well-informed, consent-filled births.
These episodes are edited and produced by Kaely Harrod, as I'm sure you can probably tell. And our amazing music is credited in the show notes as well. So we look forward to seeing you on the next episode. And in the meantime, have wonderful and consent-filled births.